Welcome to Box Recaps. Today I'm going to explain the movie The Social Network, released in the year 2010. The movie begins at a place called Thirsty Scholar Pub. The year is 2003, and a guy named Mark is having beers with his girlfriend Erica. The conversation starts off with Mark discussing the various clubs and displaying an obsession with them. Erica is being super normal with him, but Mark constantly acts defensive and offensive, as if she was speaking in code or being passive-aggressive. This escalates to a point where Mark begins to insult her, saying that she does not have to study too much or has an access to people he can if he joins the final clubs, as she studies at Boston University. He also says that the only reason they're sitting here is that she slept with the door guy. Erica, understandably, takes offense at this, saying that the door guy is her friend, and she did not sleep with him. She tells him that she's breaking up with him, which Mark thinks is a joke at first. He then tries apologizing, and in doing that, further insults her in his arrogance. Erica tells him she's being serious, and gets up to leave, after saying that he will probably end up being a very successful computer guy, and will spend the rest of his life thinking that girls don't like him because he's a nerd. But that is not true. Girls don't like him because he's an asshole. Erica leaves, and Mark walks back to his dorm, drunk, humiliated, and angry. There, he writes a lot of slander about Erica on his blog. By 10 p.m., he decides to do something to get his mind off of her, and taking a suggestion from his roommate, decides to make a website where you can score and compare two girls on their hotness. But for this, he's going to require pictures of the students. This he sources from all the residence halls, showcasing his genius in hacking the various websites which all require different methods. Meanwhile, we see that one of the most elite clubs on campus, Phoenix, is hosting its first party of the fall semester. Mark continues working till 2 a.m. and has gathered a sufficient number of pictures for his site. His best friend, Eduardo, returns and asks him about his breakup with Erica. Mark asks him how he found out, and Eduardo says that it is on his blog. Mark says he needs the algorithm Eduardo uses to rank chess players, and after the initial hesitation, Eduardo gives in. Mark applies the code provided by his friend, and so Facemash.com is now online. He sends the link to a few people, and soon the news of the website spreads like wildfire. The male students have a blast, while the females are disgusted with the invasion of their privacy and how they're being ranked by strangers. Erica's roommate also discovers the blog Mark has written about her and shows it to her, which leaves Erica in tears with humiliation. Eduardo at one point suggests that maybe they should shut down the site before they get into trouble, but Mark ignores him. Mark and his friends monitor the number of hits they're getting on Facemash, and by 4 a.m., the traffic increases to such an extent that Harvard authorities have to shut down their network. This brings a lot of consequences to light for Mark to face. We also jump to scenes of a lawsuit taking place in 2009, where Erica Albright's testimony is used against Mark, infuriating him. We get to know that Facemash had gotten 22,000 page requests in the course of 2 hours. This gets the attention of 3 students at Harvard, the Winklevoss twins and their friend Divya Narendra. In a flash-forward scene, we're shown that in 2008, Mark is in a lawsuit with the twins as well. Meanwhile, back in 2003, Mark attends an administrative board meeting where Mark says that his genius should be recognized, as his efforts put forth a lot of gaps in the university's security. There, he is charged with various offenses, such as intentionally breaching the university's security system, violating copyright, spreading digitized images, and violating privacy. After the hearing, Mark meets up with Eduardo and tells him that he's gotten 6 months of academic probation. During this time, he is approached by Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss, who take him to their final club, Porcelain, to talk. There, Mark is introduced to Divya, and the guys tell him about a project they're working on. It will be a website for socializing, which will be different from MySpace and other such platforms due to its exclusivity, as it will only be for Harvard students. Mark will act as their programmer, write the code, etc. Divya says that it will help revive his reputation. They don't need to convince Mark too much though, as he says almost immediately that he is in. The scene then shifts to the 2 lawsuits, one in which he's asked what he said to the Winklevoss twins, if he agreed to work with them or what, and Mark dodges the question, saying he does not remember what he said 3 to 4 years ago. In the other lawsuit, which is with Eduardo, the lawyer asks him when he proposed the idea for Facebook to Eduardo. Mark says that it was called The Facebook then, and then replies that it was at a party. We see Mark and Eduardo at the party he mentions, where Eduardo tells Mark that he's been invited to join the Phoenix Club, the same club that Mark was so desperate to join. Mark shares the idea of a social website which would replicate the experience of college, but he needs money to fund it. This scene is cut with moments from the lawsuit with Eduardo, where Eduardo explains that the idea of the Facebook was a great one. People will provide their own pictures and information and decide who to add or not. It was like a final club, but online. He says he wondered why Mark came to him and not his other friends who were programmers. This is explained when Mark asks Eduardo for money, around $1,000, and says that they will split it 70-30. Eduardo agrees, and Mark makes him the CFO. In the other lawsuit, Eduardo is acting as a witness, and the Winklevoss' lawyer asks him if Mark had mentioned the twins, Divya, or the Harvard connection in the weeks before his idea about the Facebook. Eduardo says yes. He says he found what the twins had to be not worth his time, and also resented that the twins and Divya had said he needed to rehabilitate his image. He believed he needed to do no such thing, as in his eyes, he had accomplished an impressive feat. Winklevoss' lawyer says that Mark was intentionally putting off working on the Harvard connection, as he has proof which indicates so. He reads out several emails sent back and forth among Mark, the twins, and Divya, in which Mark continuously reschedules and cancels their meetings. All through December it goes like this, and in the first week of January, he registers the domain name, The Facebook, through a website. We see back in the past how the twins are getting increasingly frustrated with Mark's excuses, and in February, he sends them an email where he says for the first time that he is not happy with what they have. During the lawsuit, Divya and the Winklevosses claim that Mark stole their idea, while Mark says that he did not use any of their code, and if they had come up with the idea of creating Facebook, they would have. Meanwhile, back in 2004, Eduardo makes it another step forward to joining the Phoenix Club, while Mark gets an idea from a friend who is trying to figure out if the girl he's interested in is single or not. He adds the relationship status on his site and tells Eduardo that the site is ready and has it go live. He also approaches Eduardo for the email addresses of the Phoenix Club members because he wants the Facebook to gain traction at a higher scale. The next scene shows us Divya at a function with his girlfriend, who shows him the link she got for the Facebook. Divya takes one look at it and realizes what has happened. He immediately rushes over to Cameron and Tyler and tells them that Mark Zuckerberg has stolen their website. Immediately, the twins get in touch with their father and the family's legal consultant. Tyler and Divya just want to jump at Mark and tear him limb from limb, while Cameron suggests that they wait and tackle this like the Harvard gentlemen they are. During the lawsuit, Mark is asked if he knew the twins came from a family of money, and after a lot of probing, he says yes. The lawyer asks him why he didn't ask the twins for money. After all, they were interested in a venture such as this, and Mark admits that he went to his best friend because he wanted to be partners with him. The lawyer points out that his best friend is suing him for $600 million. Back in 2004, the Facebook is now exploding everywhere. One night at a lecture where Bill Gates is the speaker, a girl introduces herself and her friend to Eduardo and asks about Mark. She tells him to Facebook her, and they'll go out for drinks or something. The fact that to Facebook someone has become an expression people are using is a huge thing. Outside, two guys approach Mark and Eduardo and tell him he did a great job on the Facebook, predicting that he might be the next Bill Gates. Eduardo is still coming off of the high that the girls used the Facebook me line and that they invited them for drinks. In their room, Eduardo suggests that they monetize the site, but Mark is not ready to do so, saying he doesn't want to have ads popping up on this cool site they have. He does not know what it is yet or what it could become. Eduardo then finds a letter from the Winklevosses and Divya about Mark stealing their intellectual property. Mark says that he didn't think it was a big deal, but Eduardo is pretty freaked out by this. The girls invite them to a bar where they have sex in the bathroom. Mark later spots Erica having dinner at the same place and goes over to try to talk to her. He asks her about his new website, but Erica is not aware of the Facebook's existence because she's not a Harvard University student. He tries to get her alone to talk, but she tells him off, saying that he called her names on the internet, right after he made fun of her family name and her bra size and compared women to farm animals. She tells him to do whatever he likes, but she will have no part in it. Stung by all this, Mark decides to expand the site to more schools. Christy, Mark, and Eduardo later return to Mark's room where they outline the structure of the company and their plan for moving forward. By the spring of 2004, the Facebook has grown in popularity, and it expands to other schools in the northeastern United States, while the Winklevoss twins and Narendra Divya are angrier at seeing their idea advance without them. Tyler refuses to sue them, instead accusing Mark of violating the Harvard Student Code of Conduct. Through their father's connections, they arrange a meeting with Harvard president Larry Summers, who is dismissive and sees no potential value in either disciplinary action or in a lawsuit against the Facebook website itself. Through Christy Lee, now Eduardo's girlfriend, Eduardo and Mark arrange a meeting with Napster co-founder Sean Parker. When Christy, Mark, and Eduardo meet Parker at a trendy fusion restaurant in New York City, Eduardo becomes skeptical of the eccentric Parker, noting his problematic personal and professional history. Mark, however, is impressed with Parker since he presented a similar vision of Facebook. Although no deals are reached, Parker suggests that they drop the from the Facebook to make it simply Facebook. That summer, Mark moves the company's base of operation to Palo Alto, California, at Parker's suggestion, while Eduardo remains in New York for seeking advertising support. When Eduardo visits from New York, he's angered to find that Parker is living in the house and making business decisions for Facebook. After an argument with Mark, the vindictive Eduardo freezes the company's bank account and returns to New York. Upon returning, Christy and Eduardo argue about his Facebook profile, which still lists him as single. Christy accuses Eduardo of cheating on her and sets fire to a scarf he gave to her as a gift. While Eduardo extinguishes the fire, Mark angrily calls him on the phone about freezing the Facebook bank accounts and reveals that they've secured money from an angel investor through Parker's contacts. As a result of Christy's jealousy, Eduardo ends his relationship with her. Meanwhile, in England, while competing in the Henley Royal Regatta, the Winklevoss twins become outraged that Facebook has expanded to a number of universities there, and they finally decide to sue Mark. Eduardo has also discovered the deal he signed with Parker's investors allows them to dilute his share of the company from a third to less than 0.1%, while maintaining the ownership percentage of all other parties. He confronts his former friend Mark at his new Facebook office in downtown LA and announces his intention to sue him. Later that night, Parker, along with a number of Facebook interns, is arrested for possession of cocaine during a party thrown on the occasion of Facebook's 1 millionth member. It is strongly implied, but never fully explained, that Mark had anonymously tipped off the police to raid the frat house where the party was held, and probably had someone plant drugs at the party to intentionally have Parker and his interns arrested to remove them from the Facebook company. In the final scene, a junior lawyer for the defense informs Mark they will be settling with Eduardo, since the sordid deals of Facebook's founding and Mark's cynical personality will make a jury highly unsympathetic to him. The film ends with Mark sending a friend request to his former girlfriend Erica on Facebook, and refreshing the page every few seconds, waiting for a response that never comes. Several final on-screen texts state that the Winklevoss twins agreed to a settlement of $65 million and signed a non-disclosure agreement. They later went on to row in the Beijing Olympics and secured 6th place. Eduardo received an unknown settlement and has his name placed back on the masthead as Facebook's co-founder, and that Facebook now has 500 million users in 207 countries and is valued at over $25 billion, therefore making Mark Zuckerberg the youngest self-made billionaire in the world. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.